Hello and happy Victober, everyone. This is Art from Art's Bookshelf Odyssey. Today I'm drinking some coffee from my official Victober coffee mug. So cheers. All right, so I'm actually recording this in late September and it's very hot outside still here in Iowa. But I saw that at the beginning of Victober, October 1st, the temperature's coming down to more fall-like weather. So I'm very excited about it. But I know you didn't watch this video to get my local weather report. So what I want to talk to you about today is Elizabeth Gaskell. And one of my reading challenges for the month was that I was going to be reading Sylvia's Lovers by Elizabeth Gaskell. And I just finished this book. It was a wonderful read, very exciting and compelling. And I believe I had read that Gaskell said that this was the saddest book that she's ever written. And I think I would agree with that. So what I wanted to do today is talk just a little bit about Sylvia's Lovers and where does it rank amidst all my other Gaskell novels and novellas that I've read. I won't talk about all of her novellas, but there's one in particular that stands out to me that I wanted to share a little bit about. But overall, I have just one novel of hers left to read, and that is Wives and Daughters. And I'll be reading that next year, probably in April, but I'm still not 100% sure yet. There have been a couple of people who said they would buddy read that with me when the time comes next year. So I am definitely going to take you up on that because I want to read this. I want to read my last Gaskell in a community of fans and let's let that experience be a joyous one as I finish her final novel. All right, so first of all, Sylvia's Lovers is about a young lady named Sylvia. Of course, it's set in 1790 in the seaside town of Monkshaven, which I believe is a fictional place, but was based on a real location. And the town is being overrun by press gangs, which is essentially people kidnapping other men and pressing them into service for the Navy. The titular lovers, in this case of Sylvia, are two men. One is named Charlie Kinraid. He is a harpooner, a whaler, and then her cousin, Philip Hepburn. Now, her cousin, and of course back then, falling in love with your cousin wasn't seen as unacceptable as today. Cue the Sweet Home Alabama music. But so if you can get over that, it's a really, it is a classic trope of, one girl torn between two men, one who loves her and she loves the other. And a little bit of minor spoilers, but I won't give away any major spoilers in case you're wanting to read this. So basically, she does not love Philip in return, but she appreciates him. She's friends with him. She loves him like a brother. So though he pines away for her, he gets friend zoned pretty harsh, and she has feelings for Charlie Kinraid. And as the story progresses, and here's where we get into a little bit of spoilers, the character of the two really come out. And what I find fascinating about this is that neither one of these men I found particularly good nor particularly evil. So they weren't just caricatures, where she's torn between the bad boy and the good boy. I think they both had their faults. And not all of them were quite as evident, especially to Sylvia. But she leans more towards Charlie, and there becomes an understanding between them, and it looks like that she's going to marry Charlie. But then Charlie gets captured by the press gang and hauled off into service, and many believe that he has died. You know what? I just gotta go into full spoilers here for now because I just have to talk about this. So Philip sees Charlie being captured, and Charlie tells him to tell Sylvia not to, tell her what happened and tell her, to stay true, and I'll come back when I can and all that. And And so Philip sees this, but then he chooses to be quiet about it. He doesn't actually tell Sylvia what really happened. So when they think Charlie has died, he lets them believe that lie. And eventually, the novel being what it is, Philip continues to pursue Sylvia, and they end up getting married. And then, and then in brilliant Victorian melodramatic splendor, it comes out that Charlie is in fact alive and he has returned to Monkshaven. And what's going to happen now when Charlie finds out that Sylvia did not stay true to him and ended up marrying Philip, but only because she thought Charlie was dead because of the lie that Philip told her. So we got a tangled web, and how Philip's words come back to haunt him and to reveal his character. Some other things happen that I will spare some detail, because I know some of you don't mind spoilers, but you don't necessarily want every other, everything spoiled completely. But the ending is not the ending I was expecting, to be honest. And I thought it was a very moving ending. And again, spoilers. If you're here for spoilers. The ending where Philip basically gains redemption. And I found that to be a very beautiful part of Philip's story. That yes, he was not the best guy. And yes, he lied. And he lied to gain what he wanted. And that's gross. Let's just call it what it is. It's gross. But seeing his storyline as a storyline of redemption made me appreciate what the story that Gaskell was telling. So the ending itself was very thoughtful and left me feeling deep emotions for sure with how she wrapped that all up. And like I said, not the ending I was expecting, but a very good ending to the story she was telling. A very tragic ending in some ways. Yeah, that was an excellent read and a great way to start off Victober. And in fact, this book might end up being one of my top favorites of the year. I think it was very good. So that's Sylvia's Lovers. Now let's talk about ranking. Where would I put this in the midst of all the Gaskell that I've read? So I want to start with really just walk you through my favorite Gaskells. I can't remember if I've done a video about this or not where I've ranked my favorites, but I'm going to do it again in any case. Coming in at number 5 would be Cranford. Now, Cranford is a shorter novel. It's set in the charming fictional English town of Cranford. And the residents of Cranford are predominantly female. And the story follows them while it explores much of the wit and humor of the town, of the characters. There's some fantastic female characters in the story. It follows their social customs, their daily interactions. It can be very episodic, but there is a bit of a storyline that follows through. I've read it once, and I don't know if I really appreciated it or understood the story it was telling. But then I did a buddy read of it with another booktuber, and just our conversation around it and taking time to dig deeper into it really improved the book for me, and that was a wonderful experience. So that's number 5, Cranford. A good place, actually, a good way to experience Gaskell for the first time, because it's shorter and it's funny, and a fairly easy to follow plot. Number 4, I would say, is Ruth. This is a story of an orphan. Ruth is seduced by a man, has a child out of wedlock, and is abandoned. And this story really follows the how society would have treated somebody like that. And of course, Gaskell writes her with much sympathy and understanding, but the result of her book in society really was shocking. I've read her letters, Gaskell's letters, and in it she writes about how many, some of the people in town even would shun Elizabeth because of what she wrote in Ruth and how they thought that this was, an unseemly story, and really were very critical of her for writing it. But I think it's a great story. It's the introduction here says that it was one of the first mainstream novels to cast a fallen woman in the role of heroine, and inevitably caused controversy when published. I found it to be just a very excellent book, sad at times, but one that really makes you think about how society used to treat women in that position, and comparing it to how we deal or treat women like that today, and to see, has there been any change? Have we gotten better at it? Do we show them more compassion or not? Really, really excellent story. And then number 3 is Mary Barton. I believe this is her first novel that she wrote. And a little bit about the plot. Mary Barton, the central character, is a young woman who embodies the hopes and aspirations of the working class, while also grappling with the harsh realities of urban life. Gaskell's narrative paints a vivid picture of the disparities between the privileged and the downtrodden, highlighting the themes of social justice, labor movements, and the complexities of human relationships. That's a very boring description, because what they don't tell you about the story is that halfway through there's a murder. It kind of starts out like Sylvia's lovers. There's a young lady is in love with 2 different men. One is poor and working class, the other is wealthy, and then the love triangle again. Then, like I said, halfway through the story, somebody gets murdered, and somebody gets accused of it that didn't do it, at least as far as we know. She really taps into her skill as a writer of thrillers and of mysteries as well, which she wrote some like that. So yeah, this book is definitely in my top 3 for sure. And what a debut novel this made. So check out Mary Barton. That comes in at number 3. And then for number 2 is probably where I would put Sylvia's Lovers. And to be honest, Mary Barton might still beat out Sylvia's Lovers a little bit, but Sylvia's Lovers is still pretty fresh, so we'll need to maybe reread that down the road and see if that still is the case. But I am completely planning to read Elizabeth Gaskell over and over again, and for the rest of my life. Very good writer. But yeah, Sylvia's Lovers. I love the here she lets the story of a man or of a woman torn between 2 men. She lets that one play out really in similar ways to Mary Barton. A little bit different, but there's a lot of similarities in the 2 plots. I could see that. And then number 1, my favorite full-length Elizabeth Gaskell novel is North and South. And that's a story of Margaret Hale, where she is uprooted from her comfortable life of the church. Her father leaves the church. They move up north to the more to the working class area, and there's this conflict between the genteel life and the working class life. Of course, there's a man she falls in love with. I have heard this described as Pride and Prejudice set in the north of England, and I could see that, but it does dig into more of the working class society, and follows the story of how Margaret learns to overcome some of her prejudices and really some of her ignorance of what conditions are really like, and how it's not just easy to make just say, well, why don't you just do this, to fix a problem. It's sometimes not just that easy. And I'm trying to be vague so I don't give spoilers, and it realizes that those decisions have consequences even. Anyway, great story, a wonderful love story, one of my favorites. And North and South is one of my probably top 10 favorite Victorian novels. And then if I were to throw in an honorable mention, it would be The Gray Woman. That is a novella. It would actually be an interesting to read if you wanted to read something about a story that plays with with style, because it opens up. It's like a story within a story. When it opens up, there's this group that sees this portrait of a woman who looks very gray and haggard, and they're like, what an interesting, it's a whole, oh, what an interesting portrait. What's the story behind this? And then the tragic gothic story of the story of the gray woman comes out, and that's what the rest of the novella is about. But it follows a young woman named Anna who marries a man named Monsieur de la Tourelle, pardon my French, and after she marries this man, she realizes he's a monster. And what this little story explores is what little recourse women had if the man you married happened to be a monster. She couldn't leave him. Her options were very limited, and so it's a brilliantly told Gothic story that really leaves you on the edge of your seat. If you get through the kind of the opening introductory story, I when I first read that, I was kind of struggling to know what the story was about or where it was going. But once it gets into the story, it really kicks. And like I said, it's a novella, so it shouldn't take you long to read. You could probably knock it out in a couple of hours, but give it the time it needs. And it is a thrilling story. It is definitely one of my favorite of her shorter works. The story itself takes a lot of interesting directions as she tries to flee the presence of her husband and goes into hiding, and how she does that, and the tragedies that happen all around her. It's so good. Really recommend that one. All right, that's all I have for today. Those are some of my thoughts and favorites of Gaskell's. Have you read the Sylvia's Lovers or any of these others? I'd love to continue the conversation in the comments talking about Elizabeth Gaskell. She's one of my favorite writers, like I said, one of my favorite Victorians, and would love to continue on the conversation there about our favorite books of hers. So I'll see you down in the comments, and until next time, happy reading and take care.